Of all the programs and discussions I've had talking to newcomers, one of the things that always stands out is what happens if the profession that I had is really radically different when I've come to Canada, and I'd like to know what I should do. This was discussed on one of our Wednesday evening calls, and I started talking about it for again, I restarted talking about it, I should say, because it seems like the problems haven't gone away. There was a young man who came in, had a background in fashion design. Now we need to understand fashion design in back in India, for example, is dramatically different from fashion design in North America. So those becomes kind of challenges. So it reminded me of when I came to Canada. I came to Canada with 23 years experience in advertising agencies. And the biggest challenge is, you've got that edge because you've understood your customer. And so as a newcomer, you don't know your customer. So it takes time to understand that customer. So what do you do? And while I call it, a plan B, and I've talked about always having a plan B in your journey as an immigrant, but it's also called alternative careers. So both of them. And so part of the challenge is, okay, number one is I realize that my career is going to be a challenge. So I do realize that I need an alternative. And how do you create that alternative? And I always talk about looking at your transferable skills. So, for example, in an ad agency, my skills were the relationship building I had with clients. A lot of that was sales, but it wasn't directly called sales. It's called programs and projects. But it was essentially sales. And so that was essentially my understanding. And so when I came to Canada and I couldn't get a job in advertising, this is the same ad agency I worked for in the Middle East. Couldn't get a job. So I said, okay, how do I start looking at alternatives? So I made a kind of a spreadsheet, and I said, okay, these are my strengths. These are my strengths. What are the other careers I can take those strengths to? And so as I started looking for a plan B, I started putting down different careers as I'd go through the job postings. And it became very clear that one of the main ones that I should be looking at was publishing, and publishing where I would be doing advertising sales. Now, the publishing industry is an industry that I was familiar with, because in advertising, you're always familiar with people from your industry. And you meet with them, and you meet with the media people, and you get to know about their products, and they sell to you. Now I'm selling those products to another client. And so I moved from advertising, mainstream client servicing, copywriting into publishing. And publishing became my plan B. But that became my plan A when I launched my magazine, the Canadian Immigrant Magazine, because a large portion of my time was spent in advertising sales. And so I was able to transit, from one to the other. But also it is important to remember, Canada employers are looking for specialists. They're not looking for generalists. So what do I mean by that? So if you are, for example, in social media, you're an SEO, you do handle PPC, the advertising, all of that, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for people who are specialists. So try and focus on the one where you have the maximum depth, and do your research and find out where you can get the best jobs. And this is Nick Narani signing off for yet another chat with you, and hopefully that this is going to help you in your journey. Bye now.